You thought you were invisible. You thought that if you just stayed quiet enough, gave enough, waited long enough, eventually they would see you, really see you. Not the version of you that was useful to them, not the version that smiled through the pain and said it's fine when it absolutely was not fine, but the real you, the one who cries in the car, the one who replays conversations at 2 a.m, wondering what you did wrong. The one who has given so much of yourself away that sometimes you stand in the mirror and struggle to recognize who's looking back. And then one day, something shifted. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was a moment of clarity, so sharp it cut right through the fog. Maybe you just simply ran out of excuses for them, out of energy to keep performing this dance where you chased and they retreated, where you loved and they calculated, where you bled and they watched with mild interest. And for the first time, maybe for the first time in years, you stopped. You stopped texting first. You stopped explaining yourself. You stopped showing up to a feast where you were always the one being consumed. And here is what nobody warned you about. The moment a narcissist realizes you have stopped chasing them, everything changes. Not in the way you hoped, not in the way you imagined when you rehearsed the fantasy of them finally waking up and appreciating you. It changes in ways that are calculated, disorienting, and designed specifically to pull you back in. And if you don't understand what is happening, if you don't understand the psychology behind what they're about to do, you will fall for it. Because they know you. They have studied you. They know exactly which strings to pull. So today we are going to talk about all of it. What happens inside a narcissist's mind the moment they notice your energy withdrawing. What they will do next, step by step, because there is almost always a pattern. And more importantly, we are going to talk about you, about why you got here, about what this moment of pulling away actually means for your life, and about how to protect yourself from being reeled back in by someone who never deserved you in the first place. Let's start with something most people don't fully understand about narcissists. They don't experience relationships the way you do. When you love someone, you think about them. You wonder how they're feeling. You feel their pain as if it's your own. You stay up worrying about whether you said the right thing. Loving people like you is one of the most beautiful and exhausting things in the world because you pour yourself into it completely. But a narcissist doesn't love like that. What they do, what they are actually doing in a relationship with someone like you, is extracting. They are extracting your attention, your admiration, your emotional energy, your time, your patience, your forgiveness. Psychologists call this narcissistic supply. And you, with your enormous heart and your deep empathy and your almost supernatural capacity to see the good in people, you were a gold mine. You gave them everything they needed. You stayed when they pushed you away. You softened when they were cruel. You explained their behavior to other people, defended them, made excuses for them. You absorbed their moods like a sponge and somehow found a way to make it about what you could do better. And they fed on that. Not consciously, maybe. Some narcissists don't sit in a room twirling a villain's mustache, but on a deep, unconscious psychological level, they found in you a source that kept giving, and they stayed as long as the supply kept flowing. And then the supply slowed down. Maybe they could feel it before you even made a conscious decision. Narcissists are actually remarkably perceptive when it comes to shifts in the people around them. Not because they care, but because their survival depends on it. They are wired to detect threats to their supply. And when you started pulling back, when the texts became shorter, when you stopped initiating, when your energy became quieter and more contained, something registered for them, a threat. Not I might lose someone I love, but I might lose something I need. And this is when the first thing happens. The thing that catches so many people completely off guard. They come back, not with accountability, not with genuine reflection. They come back soft. They come back sweet. They come back with the version of themselves that made you fall in love with them in the first place. Psychologists call this the hoovering phase, named after the vacuum cleaner brand, because what they are doing is trying to suck you back in, and it is almost terrifyingly effective because they are good at it. They have been watching you long enough to know exactly what you needed from them. The apology you never got, the tenderness they withheld, the words you were starving to hear. Suddenly they appear. A message that says, I've been thinking about you. A phone call out of nowhere where they sound vulnerable, almost broken. A memory they bring up, something from early in the relationship, when everything felt magical, and they say, remember that? They want you to remember. They want you to feel it. Because the moment you feel it, the moment your heart softens and that old warmth floods back. They have you again. And here is the part that is so hard to say, but it needs to be said with love. You will want to believe them. Of course you will. You are someone who believes in people. You are someone who wants the story to end well. You have probably replayed 100 versions in your head, where they finally change, where they finally see you, where everything you went through together turns into the turning point, instead of just the damage. And when they show up sounding like the person you always hoped they could be, every cell in your body is going to want to open the door. But here is what you have to understand. The change in their behavior is not about you. It is not about love. It is about regulation. When their source of supply withdraws, a narcissist experiences something called narcissistic injury, and it creates a kind of internal chaos, an anxiety they cannot tolerate. They need to restore the supply to restore their own equilibrium. So what looks like reaching out with love is actually reaching out for relief. Your attention is the medicine, and they are in withdrawal. And the moment they have you back, the moment the supply is restored, they will return to exactly who they were before. Maybe gradually, maybe immediately, but they will return, because nothing has actually changed. If the soft approach doesn't work, if you hold your distance, if you somehow manage to stay quiet when every instinct tells you to respond, they will shift tactics. And the second move is often the one that devastates people the most, because it weaponizes your compassion. They will perform suffering. They will let you know, directly or indirectly, that they are falling apart without you, that they're not sleeping, that you were the only person who ever really understood them. They might reach out through mutual friends. They might post something on social media that seems designed specifically for you to see. Something melancholy, something that implies loss, something that says, look how broken I am. And you, because of who you are, because your empathy runs so deep that you feel other people's pain before you even have time to think, you will feel responsible for their suffering. That is the trap, because the guilt a person like you carries is real, even when it is completely undeserved. They know that. They have always known that. Your compassion, the most beautiful thing about you, is also the thing they have learned to exploit. When they perform pain, they are not asking for your forgiveness. They are asking for your return. And they are using the one thing that has always made you come back, your inability to watch someone suffer without wanting to help. If that doesn't work either, if you stay strong through the sweetness and through the suffering, they will often move to something colder. Something that is designed to destabilize you rather than pull you in. This is where some people experience a complete reversal in how the narcissist treats them publicly or privately. Suddenly you might find out they are talking about you to other people, telling a version of the story that makes you the problem. They may become cold and dismissive, almost performatively moving on, as if the relationship meant nothing, and as if you were always the one who cared more. They want you to chase the closure. They want you to come to them needing to be heard, needing to explain yourself, needing to set the record straight. And the moment you do that, the moment you show up demanding to be understood, they have the supply again. Your emotional reaction is the supply. Your anger, your hurt, your need for them to acknowledge what really happened, all of it feeds them. This is why the hardest and most powerful thing you can do is also the most painful: silence. Genuine, chosen, dignified silence. Not the silence of someone who is waiting to be noticed, but the silence of someone who has decided they deserve more than this. And there is a profound difference between those two kinds of silence. One is still a form of chasing. The other is a form of healing. Now I need to talk to you about something that goes deeper than their tactics. Because understanding what a narcissist does when you pull away is important, but it is not the whole story. The whole story includes you. Why were you there in the first place? Why did someone with your level of emotional intelligence, your sensitivity, your depth, stay in something that was costing you so much? And I want to be clear, asking that question is not about blame. It is not about making you the problem. It is about understanding the pattern so you can actually break it. People who are deeply empathetic, who feel everything intensely, who give without limit, they often come from a place where that level of giving was required of them. Maybe as a child you learned that love was earned, that if you were good enough, patient enough, understanding enough, the person in front of you would finally show up for you. Maybe you learned to read moods and adjust yourself accordingly, because the environment you grew up in demanded that kind of hypervigilance. Maybe you became so attuned to other people's needs because your own needs felt dangerous to express. And so you became a person who pours, who gives, who stays, who hopes, who forgives. And then you meet someone who takes, someone who is bottomless, someone who receives everything you give and somehow always needs more. And instead of recognizing the imbalance for what it is, you lean in harder. Because somewhere inside you, you believe that if you just give enough, if you finally crack the code of what this person needs, they will finally be able to give you what you need. It is not stupidity, it is conditioning. It is the deepest kind of longing for love to work the way you always believed it should. The narcissist didn't create this pattern in you. They found it. They spotted it from the beginning. Actually, your warmth, your willingness to give the benefit of the doubt, your capacity to stay when most people would leave, these are not flaws, but they are things that someone with narcissistic tendencies will exploit without hesitation. And once you understand that, once you really sit with it, the question changes. It stops being why won't they change and starts being why did I keep waiting for them to? Here is something that might feel uncomfortable to hear. Your decision to stop chasing, as brave and right as it is, might also feel terrifying to you. Because even when a relationship is painful, even when it has cost you enormous amounts of yourself, the familiar is still the familiar, and the human brain finds safety in familiar things, even when those familiar things are harmful. So stopping the chase might feel like free fall. It might feel like grief, even though what you are losing was never really giving you what you needed. You might find yourself second-guessing everything. Was I too sensitive? Was I unfair? Maybe if I had just communicated differently. Maybe if I had just waited a little longer. This is normal. This is not a sign that you are wrong. This is what healing looks like at the beginning. Messy, uncertain, sometimes unbearable. But the discomfort of leaving something that hurt you is not proof that you should go back. It is proof that you have been in pain for a long time, and your nervous system doesn't yet know what safety feels like. Let me tell you what stopping the chase actually does for you. Not for them, for you. It begins to close the channel through which you have been slowly disappearing. Every time you chased, every time you explained yourself, every time you softened when they were cold, you were giving away a little more of who you are. You were teaching yourself that your needs come last, that your peace is less important than their comfort, that keeping them in your life is worth the cost of shrinking yourself. And somewhere along the way, you started to believe it. Stopping the chase is not just about refusing to pursue someone who doesn't value you. It is about beginning to turn that energy back toward yourself. Every hour you spent crafting the perfect message to get them to understand you, what would it mean to spend that hour on something that actually nourishes you? Every night you spent awake trying to figure out what you did wrong. What would it mean to spend that night resting, healing, remembering who you were before they convinced you that you were too much and never enough at the same time? Because that is the cruelest trick of all. A narcissist will make you feel simultaneously excessive and inadequate. Too emotional, but not emotionally available enough for them. Too needy, but somehow always the one giving. Too sensitive, but never sensitive enough to their needs. And after long enough in that distorted mirror, you start to see yourself the way they see you, flawed in ways that can never quite be fixed. And you chase because you think fixing their perception of you will fix how you see yourself. It won't. It never will. Because their perception of you was never really about you to begin with. What will actually begin to heal how you see yourself is this. Watching yourself choose yourself. Even just once. Even just today. Watching yourself not respond to the message designed to destabilize you. Watching yourself not explain yourself to someone who has never been interested in understanding you. Watching yourself sit in the discomfort of their disapproval and survive it. Because every time you do that, every time you choose your own peace over their comfort, a different message gets written in your nervous system. One that says, I matter. My boundaries are real. I don't have to earn love by suffering. And here is the quiet truth that I want you to carry with you. The narcissist reaction when you stop chasing is not about love. But your decision to stop chasing absolutely can be. It can be an act of love. Love for the person you were before all of this. Love for the version of you that got lost, somewhere in the middle of trying so hard to be enough for someone who was never going to let you be. Love for the person you are still becoming, the one who is learning, slowly and sometimes painfully, that they do not have to perform or sacrifice or shrink to deserve to be loved. You stopping the chase is not you giving up on love. It is you finally refusing to accept the counterfeit version. There will be hard days, days when they reach out and everything in you wants to respond. Days when you hear something about their life and you feel that old ache, that pull, that irrational wish that maybe this time is different. And on those days, I want you to remember something. The feeling of missing them is not evidence that you were wrong to leave. It is evidence of how much of yourself you invested. It is evidence that you loved fully and genuinely, which is not a weakness, it is who you are. The grief is real, but so is the peace waiting for you on the other side of it. Watch for the hoovering. Watch for the performed suffering. Watch for the cold reversal designed to bait you back in, not with paranoia, but with clarity. You are not a villain for recognizing these patterns. You are not cold for protecting yourself. You are not selfish for choosing not to be extracted from anymore. Understanding what they are doing does not make you cynical. It makes you awake. And being awake is the thing that will actually save you. Because the person who deserves your empathy the most right now, the one who has gone the longest without receiving the kind of care you have so freely given everyone else, that person is you, the one crying in the car, the one who replays the conversations, the one who gave and gave and gave until there was almost nothing left. That person needs you now, not them, not the relationship, not the closure that will never come in the form you need it to. You. So when they reach out, and they likely will, pause before you respond. Ask yourself not what do they need, but what do I need? Ask yourself not will this help them understand, but will this protect my peace? And then let the answer be enough. Let your own needs finally be the deciding factor in your own life. The most radical thing you can do for someone who has spent years making you feel invisible is to become so fully present in your own life that you don't even notice when they're trying to pull you back. Not because you are cold, not because you don't still carry some love for them, but because you have finally decided that your life is worth living forward, not backward. Not in the direction of someone who only needed you for what you could provide, but in the direction of who you actually are. All of it. The sensitivity, the depth, the enormous capacity to love. You didn't lose those things in that relationship. They are still here. You are still here. And the moment you stopped chasing them, you started, maybe without even realizing it, the long and tender walk back to yourself. Keep walking.